comedy dish.
Co-starring Rick Wright and Stephen Allen Green.
Ta-da. And here we are.
Hello, Rick, Brian.
Hello,
How
hello,
are you?
sir. Yeah, doing good. Kind of recuperating from the usual holiday stuff, but yeah, things are fine over here. I'm
Good.
wearing the new jumper that Maggie got me for Christmas.
Oh, let me see it. Oh, how nice! I love it. Jumper for the American audience means sweater.
Yeah, well, it's different. So the jumper is the one that doesn't have any buttons. The cardigan's the one with buttons. So
I didn't know that.
you can open it up from the front. So
I loved the Cardigans. Had a hit in the late '90s, and I think they're a Swedish band.
yeah, Love Fool was the
Love
name.
Fool. I love that song. I had some romantic times during that playing.
Yeah, I've been trying to find that on vinyl, and the cheapest price I can find for a 45 of that is like 40 pounds, 40 to 50 pounds. It's pretty rare.
Really? Why do you want it on vinyl? What does that do for you?
It's great for when I do DJ sets, like when I did one this last Friday, and the bulk of the audience was people born after the year 2000. And so they were just absolutely loving that I had, vinyl singles from the 21st century. And, they knew every word. They sang it really loud. And then, I had oldies there were some of my quiz regulars that were there. And, so, for them, I could play 60s and 70s stuff. So, yeah, overall, it was really fun night. And then a more sedate Christmas with Maggie's daughter and grandchildren, and the whole turkey thing. A turkey and some mistletoe helped to make the season bright.
What's that from? It doesn't rhyme.
Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow. We'll find out.
Oh, yes. Hey, you know what I was trying to find on the web? I had heard this, I think in the late 70s, on a record. I think it was a Frank Zappa record or Frank Zappa produced record, but it was Steve Martin singing that song. And then at the end, in typical Steve Martin styles, Merry Christmas, fuck you.
Oh,
Have you ever heard that?
No, I haven't heard that. Are you sure it
Yeah.
was Steve Martin? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very sure. Speaking of Steve Martin, Tommy Smothers died.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
So I knew that when you said, speaking of Steve Martin, because Steve Martin wrote for the original Smothers Brothers show.
Along with our good friend Carl Gottlieb and Rob Reiner. Rob Reiner, Carl Gottlieb.
And Mason Williams.
And Mason Williams, the great guitarist, they were comedy writers on the show.
Yes.
So Tommy, I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah. I met Tommy a couple different times.
Really?
And, the first time I was really, really drunk, but he and Dick Smothers were guest presenters at this San Francisco was the Bay Area Cabaret Awards, and they always had a category for best comedy group. And the one year that Rick and Ruby decided to come to the thing, we didn't win.
Rick and Ruby is your former famous duo, comedy musical duo, and the Bay Area is San Francisco,
right? And yet we performed and it went over really well. And both Tommy and Dick were telling us how funny he thought how much they liked what we did.
Wow.
And but at that point I'd already had a few about 5 glasses of wine because we had lost, and it just seemed, like we were supposed to win. We were the crowd favorite, and so I'm kind of like I'm doing mock tears, like, oh, we lost, and Dickie actually said the funny line. He just goes, "Hey, we've been in show business for 35 years. We never won any fucking awards." The way he said it, it was so cool. Then I ran into Tom again at the Improv, just after I'd finished a set during about the year that I was working there as one of the paid regulars. And I sat down, unbeknownstly, I sat next to Tom Smothers in the audience, and he said, "I love what you did. I wish that some of those songs you could have done longer."
Wow. Well, Tom Smothers, the Smothers Brothers in particular, Tom was one of my very early comedy influences. I remember I was in third grade, like 8 years old, 9 years old, maybe it was fourth grade. And, I tested a lot of my comedy in class,
Hmm.
as a lot of us comics do. And it was that kind of, you know, uh, well, there was something I was taking it from Beaver Cleaver as well,
Oh, of
which is to
course.
remove the first syllable of a word when you're talking to an adult to
Yeah.
make you look kind of naive, even though you're not naive because you're consciously removing the first syllable. And just sort of Tom's kind of dumbfounded, but he's really very intellectual behind the eyes. That kind of thing. I mean, I really analyzed it. I was maybe 8, 9 years old, figuring it out. Well, what a loss to comedy. I've had a win, which I was kind of skeptical about, but I woke up to an email, and which is the blues joke. My short film Little Things that I did in London, right?
Yeah.
So it's been rated quite high and placed in this new publication, which I'm getting the Amazon link, the World Book of Short Films. There's the first publication. There's over 4,000 short films, but we're in there. And I
Nice.
thought, okay, it's just a scam to get me to buy it, but it's not a scam. I talked to the guy. It's legit. And why not? I mean, so much of Hollywood is pay to play. You never know. But I didn't enter this or anything. It was just all of a sudden the movie that I wrote and directed and was produced by Rupesh Parekh, who went on to become a great Hollywood producer. Anyway, so that's just kind of good news. And
Yeah. So are you, well, you're going to buy the book, I guess, right?
well, yeah. When I'm going to buy it next week. Very short on cash. Uber business has been weird and slow because of Christmas, and
Well, I'm sure you'll make up for it on New Year's if you're going to work. New
yeah,
Year's.
I am, and of course that's the most dangerous time to be out on the road. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll make up for it on New Year's for sure. Comedy
Yeah.
wise, I went to 3 Christmas parties, two comedy Christmas parties. Went to the Laugh Factory and the Improv Christmas party. I had fun at both. I didn't know about the Comedy Store Christmas party. A little bit perturbed about that, but I guess
I can't remember ever going to a Comedy Store Christmas party. If
Well,
they're,
did they have them back in the day when you and I
I
were
don't think
there?
they, I don't think they did.
No,
I mean,
I don't think
Mitzi
they
used
did.
to give gifts. Give those Comedy Store bathrobes and
Mhm.
things of that nature for about
Yeah,
first 2 years I was there. Then I said, "Oh, wait a minute, this is costing me too much money."
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but
So, yeah, for sure. But it was fun. It was fun going to the Improv one, and the Laugh Factory one was fun as well. And uh, just talking to comics you haven't seen in a long time, and just feeling you know part of the
yes,
comedy scene because it kind of makes up for the rest of the year when I'm like, knocking on their doors. Any comedy club, hello,
yeah,
it's me.
yeah, yeah. Oh, sure. I mean that part of the comedy scene is the stuff I miss. Is
What, the knocking of the
interacting.
door or the
No,
parties?
the interacting with
Yeah,
the other acts when you're just talking as people instead of doing the whole. Well, I got a call back on this and that. Doing
right. Well,
the whole.
that I can't stand that. I think I told you a couple of years ago I went to a memorial for a person who was indirectly involved in the comedy business, and I sat at a table with some industry people, and one of them, when I met them, the first thing they did, and God bless them because to show that they care. And meanwhile, I'm spending most of the year trying to get people to even pay attention to me. when they asked me, how's your career going? I just shut down. I just thought it was just so disrespectful to the person who
Mm.
just died.
Yeah, it's like we're not talking about that shit here. We're honoring somebody,
We're honoring
so
somebody. But I've literally been graveside, maybe even a pallbearer at a comedian's funeral. And it's the classic thing. It's like it's at the end of the movie, Hal Ashby's great movie, Being There, starring Peter Sellers, where
oh
they're
God.
carrying the coffin and they're talking about who they're going to select to be the next president. I've literally been, I think it was Mel Cole's funeral. Remember Mel? He was a comedian and a writer. I was on a,
Mm.
writing staff with him. We were writing for Jimmy Walker, and they were also Mel and Frank Catesquio, his partner, were also writing for Jackie Mason.
Oh,
And
okay. That I remember Mel Cole now. Yes,
yeah, nice guy,
didn't know
right? Talk
didn't know
real
he
slow.
passed away. He worked a lot at the LA Cabaret.
Yes, exactly. So
Yes.
at his funeral at Forest Lawn, you know, I saw comics I knew, comics who knew me came over to me. We were talking, and inevitably, like within about 10 seconds, it started. The conversation was who books that room. You know what I mean by that.
Yes. God. Uh, it's one of those comedy jokes you reminded me of. The comic talks about this gig on the road where he gets heckled mercilessly, he gets beat up, gets mugged going back to the hotel, and the club shorts him and all this, and they they just decline to pay the airfare. All and and the other guy goes, "Who books this gig?"
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. You know the joke, and then we'll bring on Colin. This is a little bit longer of a joke. I heard it in England. I love it. The people who get it just fall out of their chairs. Other people I've had just stare at me like the RCA dog. Um, so two comics in London. Listen up, Colin. I want to hear what you think of this. Two comics in London driving up to, let's say, Glasgow, way north, like 12-hour car ride for a gig. They get to the theater, and the theater manager's there and says, "I got good news and bad news." And he goes, "Well, what's the bad news?" Only one person bought the ticket. Only one person. So the comics say, "Well, that's okay, man. Hey, listen, we'll get some kip, we'll get some sleep, we'll have a meal, we'll drive back, no worries, and then you can rebook us." And the promoter says, "No." What do you mean, no? You're going on. They're going on for one person in the audience. You out of your fucking mind? We're not going to do that. And he says, "Well, if you don't do that, you're not going to get a meal. You're not going to get a place to sleep, and fuck you." So, or as we say in England, fuck off. So, thank you, Colin. So, they go on. The first comic, there's two comics. First comic goes out, and welcome to the comedy show. My name is, let's say it's me and your headline. My name is Stephen Allen Green, and the one guy in the audience goes. Then Stephen goes, "Okay, so I'm going to start my routine. Anybody here from out of town?" "Oh, yeah, okay." And does the jokes, and he's sweating through it, but he's thinking in his head, "I got to do this, or I won't be able to sleep or eat." And so he does the gig, and he does his set in 15, 20 minutes, and then he finishes, and he goes, "Okay, ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen, are you ready for your headliner?" And the guy in the audience goes, "Here he is. Please welcome Mr. Rick Wright." And so I walk backstage, start to walk backstage, and Rick Wright, you are walking towards the microphone. And as we pass each other, you say to me, "How is he?" And the reason, ladies and gentlemen who aren't in the comedy business, is that there's a common parlance in the comedy business where a comic will ask a comic who just came off stage, "How are they?" Meaning, how's the audience? Are they warm? Are they receptive?
Yeah.
All right, I have to explain the jokes. It's not worth it. All right. Let's bring on our guest. I've been wanting to get this guy on for a while. Colin Higgins is a rising star from the Glasgow comedy scene and has performed UK wide. He delights his audiences with his cutting observations, brutal honesty, and self-deprecating style. Please welcome to the Comedy Dish stage, all the way from Glasgow, Scotland. And I'm going to be doing a crap Scottish accent for a while until you tell me to fuck off. Colin Higgins, how you doing, mate?
How you doing?
All right.
Yay.
All right.
Well,
Thanks for coming. We'll see you next time. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We're looking forward to this.
Yes. How was your Christmas?
It was different. It's been a mental, crazy year, and it's just emotionally gutted. And
Why? What's going on? What's happened?
Oh, it's just been a crazy year, just with all sorts of things. It's been a lot of tragedy and people around about me not being well and losing people and young people passing away and all sorts of stuff. It's been a hellish year. But
yeah, I know. I've lost. I think I counted 4 friends, comedy friends I've known for decades, have died in the last couple of months.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the more comics that die, the better chance I have to get on that stage.
Exactly.
No. These were wonderful people, and it's hard. It's harsh. I'm Rick and I are both, I assume, older than you, so we're at an age where, comics are just going to die from being old.
Yeah, but there has been a resurgence. There's just been a lot of them in the last couple of years of people that were our contemporaries, 30 years ago, and they're succumbing. I think 2022 was worse than this year as far as people we knew, but it's still.
But let me just say, what a positive, great way to start off the interview by talking about death.
Death, yeah.
Thank you, Colin. I really appreciate that.
I've got no filter, and I just say it like it is. Sometimes,
of course. Of course. No, I get it. I understand. And if you're feeling left out, one day you'll die too, but hopefully not right away. No. So tell us about your. You started doing comedy in Glasgow, or no, in Scotland?
Yeah, Glasgow started. Well, my first gig ever was in Edinburgh at a venue you'll know very well in York Place, the Stand.
Yes, I played it once. Yes.
Yeah, I've played it quite a few times. Yeah, the Stand was where I did my first ever gig. That was in 2010, I think.
Okay.
And I kind of mulled around the kind of circuit for about a year, and then my health took a bit of a nosedive, and other things, and it kind of fell away. I didn't stop writing. I was still, involved with people from the scene, but I wasn't performing. And then I decided, fuck it. It's never, never. I need to get on with this and see if I can do it. And I went to work at the Fringe, at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, with quite a famous established act, and I'd asked if I could go and kind of shadow her and work for her in any way she needed, and she said yeah. So I got to really watch a pro at the top end.
You're talking about Janie?
Yeah, Janie Godley.
I love Janie Godley.
Yeah, we worked together many times.
Did you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Usually whenever I know I worked the Hyena with her at least once, but I just remember one gig we did about around 2009, 2010, where we hadn't seen each other for a couple of years, and she was just talking to me like we're old friends. And then I had the girlfriend who passed away in 2013, and I'd written a blog about it, and Janie had these wonderful comments to say about it, and just we all feel for her. I mean, it was genuine, and I really appreciated that. So
she's also, a killer act. I mean, I've never seen her die. I've never seen her struggle. I was watching her every night, and how there would be a whole part of the show was completely spontaneous, and it was just crowd work. It was just working the room. It was just really, really, people don't realize what a killer act
yes,
she
I
is.
think the one weekend I worked the stand, she was comparing. I think that was probably about 2008 or 9. I was amazed. I never worked there again because that weekend went really well. But
I remember meeting the lady who ran that club in Edinburgh. I think that was in when I did my one-man show at the Cafe Royal, my one-man show, Viagra Falls. Yeah, and I tried to get into that club. For some reason, I could never connect. What was her name?
Yeah. Did you ever work Jongleurs in your
No,
time?
that was gone before I was doing was gigging proper kind of regularly. It was away. It was replaced with the Glee. So there's a few. So I've gigged there once, and that was part of like a comedy course that I was doing. So it was quite cool. Viv G's comedy course I did. All the pros were telling me to do it. They're like, go and do a course, and I thought, no, I don't want to do a course and kind of purist and all that. And they explained it to me, well, there's people that are going, hammer and tongs, try to become comedians, and they're doing the course, and they're up on stage, and they're organised with material, and it's going well, and they'll be ahead of you whether you like it or not. So you should really take some instruction. So I did, and landed on my feet with Viv G, who is continually of support, and she's wonderful. And I got a lot of help getting my stuff organised, and worked with other people as well for some kind of teaching, like Des McLean, Martin Moore.
Yeah, I know Martin.
Oh, Martin.
What was your career path before you got into comedy? What were you going to be, or what were you, or
But I wanted to be a comedian. I played the piano as well. One behind me. I wanted to be, I wrote songs, and but my life's been pretty crazy. So I ended up, to me, playing the piano in Madison Square Garden was a more realistic aim than becoming a stand-up comedian.
That was more realistic? How so?
In my head, when
Did you ever get to do that?
No. No, I was kidding myself on. I'm self-taught. I can write those.
Do you incorporate music in your comedy act?
No.
Why not?
I don't, because I think you need to be, it takes a certain type of talent to do that well. And, you are very good at it. But there's a lot of people who do it, and it's...
I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate the compliment. I'm not going to cut you off anymore in this show, but I'm so emotional about this because it's been coincidentally a big issue with me internally. I think that there's a big difference. I'm not trying to be, electoral or, I think there's a big difference between talent and skill. And I think talent is something that we're born with. I think skill is what we learn how to do. And if you're already a top musician, a pretty good musician, okay, maybe not considered by the musical industry, but if you have confidence in what you do and the people you play for like your music, and then you have a whole other group of people or the same group of people and Venn diagrams of people who love your comedy, what's, aside from just personal choice, what's stopping you from figuring out how to, Rick is the classic example of a musical comedian. Rick, Colin, what do you think of what I'm saying? Is it?
Well, yeah, I think I got into the scene. It kind of reinvented itself during the time that I was working in the duo act in the cabarets, and then a whole comedy club scene started to develop in the early 80s. So when the duo act broke up, that was the natural place for me to go. So, my act consisted of impressions and song parodies and taking audience requests and seeing if they could stump me, because I just knew all this. I don't know if you can see behind, but on that wall behind me, Colin, that's a whole wall of 45 RPM singles.
Treasure trove.
And I have 3 more of walls that high. There's about 30,000 records here. So but yes, then I had an embarrassing moment when I first came to UK in 2001, and I did the Big Breakfast, and every song that they heard, oh, well, he knows a lot of songs, and every song they requested was a song that was only a hit in England, and I'd only just come over there, so
Was this the television show?
that was the Big Breakfast TV show with
Huge.
Paul Tonkinson and Amanda Bynum and Donna Eyre, and they just completely made me look like an idiot. And,
No, you made you look like an idiot. I'm kidding. So, Colin, what do you think of my premise here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very valid art form, and I do enjoy it. But it's, to me, I don't know. It's also the thought of having to lug a stage piano because I don't play the guitar. And I've worked with bands, I've done tours, and I've done load-ins, and did a tour with the Sensational Alex Harvey band, and that's a lot of work.
But you have Bill Bailey, who plays the piano. He's a great comedian, famous comedian.
He's amazing. Bill Bailey's incredible.
Yep.
He's incredible. And you have Tim Minchin, who I believe is from Australia.
Amazing.
So
and he's some player as well. He can really play the piano. I can't play it like that. I'm
a shitty guitar player. I'm terrible at guitar, but I get away with it from what
I never take solos because I would completely screw that up. I worked with another guy named Rainer Hirsch, who was
Rainer Hirsch.
Name,
yeah, brilliant. And I mean, he did classical stuff,
right?
But it was.
He's got like not Shelley Berman. What's the name of that older guy who played piano?
Oh, Victor Borge.
Victor Borge.
Yep.
So, who are your comedy influences, Colin?
Oh, I was just thinking of another musical comedian there, and I forget. I'm so bad with names. I've got ADHD, and when I need to think of something, it just goes away. He's Canadian, and I think he came over with like Craig Campbell and Tom Stade and all that to the UK. He does a lot of plays in London, writes plays.
I'm blanking, and I know him. I know who he is. Yeah,
he's
Phil Nickel.
That's him, Phil Nickel.
He was a guitarist, but
his songs were hilarious and that high energy, and it was just really, really good. And I think there's a lot of musical acts seem to be coming through on the Scottish scene as well. There's a trio called Ouija, think of that. And I'm known as Ouija's if you're a Glaswegian.
Yeah.
And these three guys are absolutely hilarious, and they're doing really, really well. And if it's done right, then it's great. But I think my music is my outlet for all my sort of morose I'm a Floyd fan. When I heard I was getting interviewed by Rick Wright, I nearly skipped a beat. But I thought, how the hell's that going to be?
Yeah, that Rick Wright, he's still around, isn't he? Or
no, I'm a Floyd nut.
Okay,
Who's that?
Who? Yeah, there was
player from Pink
keyboard
Floyd.
player for Pink Floyd was named Rick Wright.
Oh, that's what confused me.
W.
Right. Oh, wow.
And his son-in-law is Guy Pratt, who is also a comedian. And
but he's a real Pratt.
Oh, he's not. He's lovely. I've met him at the Fringe. He's
no, I'm joking.
Yeah, I never heard the word Pratt as a derogatory term until I came over here.
It's a great word.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to do our first pub quiz coming up. But there was something I was going to ask or make a point of. I'm so glad you're here. Huh?
My influences were what? You know who my influences were?
Yeah.
Billy Connolly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Rich Pryor. Carlin. My influences are really American, really. Because to me, that's where it's at. The comedy is on its arse a wee bit in the UK. I feel that it's.
I think the person that influenced me the most as a kid was Frank Zappa, because it's you can mix funny with musicianship, and you can even be a little risque with it. And I thought, and actually the Monkees kind of influenced too, because they were booked as a comedy act, but they did funny stuff in their concerts. But their songs were just straightforward pop, but they had some of the best people working with them. So
great pop. It was,
and of course the Smothers Brothers. Tom Smothers passed away today. The Smothers Brothers were basically a folk act and were sung beautiful songs and great harmony. and then they'd break into comedy. They'd argue with each other because they were brothers. It was very funny. All right, we're very delighted to have Colin Higgins as our guest. I guess this is our last show of the year, Brian. And
What an honor.
huh?
What an honor.
Yeah.
Top the year off in good
You know,
fashion.
when you said "what an honor," it reminded me of the most hated British film of all time. One of my favorite films, Love Actually. When the guy who's the manager of the Bill Nighy character who plays the old rock star, and he spends Christmas with him, and because you are the love of my life, turns out, ironically, and he goes, "What an honor." You know what I'm talking about?
Gregor Fisher.
Yeah, that
was
guy.
the actor's name, okay? Because
Gregor Fisher.
that was one of the more memorable characters in that whole movie.
I love that film. Still love that film. Okay, we'll be right back with Colin Higgins.
That's my stepdad's favorite film.
Whose?
My stepdad.
Yeah, maybe it's an age thing. You hate it, in other words, right? It's crap.
Shit, no.
No,
It's a bit
all right.
saccharine for me.
Okay. No requirement. You love it. We'll be right back. All right, we're ready for our final pub quiz of the year. We do this in 3 rounds, 3 questions per round, 1 point each. It's Stephen Allen Green, me in Hollywood versus Colin Higgins in Scotland. Rick Wright is our quiz master. What pub are we doing this from today, Rick?
Oh, let's go the Stapleton on Stapleton Hall Road in Crouch Hill. On Stroud Green Road, basically.
I missed that. Ugh.
Yeah,
I got to get back.
When you take the W7 from Finsbury Park to the King's Head down Stroud Green.
Killing me with memories. W7, and I remember, you pass these row of really great tandoori restaurants on the way up. Oh, it's just killing me.
Yeah,
all right. Get myself together. First question.
First question has to do with astronomy. So, how many total moons are there in the 4 planets closest to the sun?
184.
You're a little off, a little high.
How many moons are there in?
4 is not correct. But
okay, let's get the question right. In the 3 planets or 4 planets closest?
4 planets.
Okay,
Mercury,
so Earth has
Venus,
1.
Earth, Mars. Yeah.
Mars is I don't know if they have moons, but I don't think. Venus might have a moon, and Mercury might have. Mercury, I bet you, doesn't have a moon. I don't know. I can't answer this. Colin said 4. I'll say
Colin said 4.
7.
Okay. Well, Colin is closer. It's 3 because neither Mercury nor Venus has a moon. Earth has 1 and Mars has 2. So, we give a half a point for that because he was the closest.
Yeah, definitely. Mars has 2. What are the moon names of Mars?
I don't know. Tommy and Dickie.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Okay. Oppression for question number 2. In March of 2022, Afghanistan's Taliban banned all females over the age of 12 from doing what?
I feel like Paul Lynde here all of a sudden.
Yeah, I know it's nothing dirty. It's something that
banned all women from driving.
That was Saudi Arabia, actually. Yeah.
Is it something to do with dress?
No, it's something kind of everyday, something kind of natural that kids are, in most countries are required to do.
Wait, kids? You're talking about women?
Well,
are banned.
Yeah, men or women, girls are banned from doing.
Girls, young girls, not women.
Girls over the age of 12
are banned or allowed to.
They're not allowed to.
Well, it couldn't be sex because that's too young to have sex. So, not drive.
I just thought this was interesting. The answer is going to school.
Really?
Yeah.
God, I wish I was banned from going to school. Who the fuck wants to go to school, right, Colin?
Yeah. Not me. I was a nightmare. I hated school.
Yeah. What'd you do? Did you cause trouble?
At least I had the option of going. That's awful, isn't it?
How did you have the option of going?
I didn't have the option of not going.
Oh, you didn't have that one. All right. So what's the score? And how many more? One more question.
One half to nil. Yeah, the thing that I hated about school was it just seemed like it was training you to be normal.
Yeah.
And I remember we had career counseling when I was in 8th grade, year 8, as they say over here. And I wanted to be a rock star, and they had nothing even close to that as far as career choices. So, and I would say that to the counselor, and well, what do you really want to do?
Oh, man.
So, yeah. Okay. Third one concerns time. Daylight savings time was first initiated in the U.S. in what decade?
That's an unfair question because I'm American. I might know it. I refuse to answer. I refuse to take part in this question because it's unfair to Colin.
Okay, let's do
it.
it.
I don't have the answer. I would guess the 40s.
It was the 1910s.
Okay.
Actually, 1918.
Unfair question, Quizmaster.
Okay, we don't want that. All righty. Abbreviations. So they've kind of started doing this in the last decade or so. Instead of designating BC and AD to commemorate different years, they now use BCE and CE. So BCE being the era before Christ, etc. But what does the CE actually stand for?
Oh,
it doesn't. The C doesn't stand for Christ.
Brian, you're asking these questions of two individuals who have randomly engaged in heavily in alcohol or edible substances.
Militant atheism,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
CE. Give us a clue. Give us a clue.
I can't even think of something funny.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give a point for the funny. It's just okay. It's common era. Is what it stands.
I wouldn't look at that in a million years.
Yeah, me neither. Give us one more question on this round, please.
Okay, James Bond theme.
Yeah, okay. We can equal footing on that one, I assume.
What 1977 James Bond theme tune was the first to not have the same title as the film it was written for, though the title does appear in the song's lyrics? 1977 was the year of the.
So it's not For You Eyes Only. It's not Live and Let Die. Moonraker?
Somewhere in between those two, actually. But the theme song was sung by an American female.
Oh, I don't know.
That's a hard one. I don't know.
American singer-songwriter. It was sung by Carly Simon.
You're So Vain?
That was not a Bond theme.
The Eyes. Oh, something about it's about intimacy or eyes or
it rhymes with eyes.
Lies.
No, the song was "Nobody Does It Better" from the Spy Who Loved Me. Yes,
that's it.
Yeah,
all right,
it
all right, all right,
okay.
all right. That's good. That was a hard one, man. God damn, that's a hard one. Well, geez. Get back to
okay, we'll make them more accessible.
Sorry, I'm rubbish.
I'm not going to this pub again, Colin.
I'm rubbish. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. You know, we love rubbish. All right, let's get back to comedy. So, you've played all over the UK, or as much as you can.
The length and breadth.
Sorry,
the length and breadth. I don't know if I've been everywhere. I've certainly not been everywhere, but I've been up in the Hebrides. I've been down to London and all around Scotland and things like that.
And what part of the UK have you played that you love the most? Like, I love the audiences of Newcastle or something like that.
Yeah, but I'm actually gigging in Newcastle. I've got for the first time. I've got a load of dates coming in throughout the year in the book, so I'm looking forward to that.
Are you doing the Hyena in Newcastle?
No, it's the ROFL.
What's it called?
Lee Jones Jr. The dude is it ROFL? Rolf ROFL is the name of the club.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I think
which
few of
stands
them.
for roll on the floor laughing. Yes.
Yeah, that's the name of the club. So I've got a few with them. So he's got a few venues. I'm not quite sure what ones I'm going to, but that's Newcastle, Derby, and places like that. So thoroughly looking forward to that. I'm trying to think. We're a good audience. Dundee, people slag Dundee in Scotland all the time, and because it can be a bit rough, and I think it's a great wee city, and they're a great audience. They're a great laugh, and some other kind of wee obscure places that I've gigged. You walk in and you can have an absolute hoot, like in the wilderness and beyond Inverness and Muir of Ord and places like that, and it's just a Donald Duck, isn't it?
Yes, I remember I'd do gigs in places like West Plumfield, and then I didn't realize there was an East Plumfield and a Middle Plumfield. So, but the other two Plumfields would get together for this one comedy night in West Plumfield, and this little venue would be completely packed. So it's amazing if the gig is promoted right, you can have a wonderful crowd for your.
Well, yeah. Sometimes I've done gigs throughout England where, you get to the town. I think Milton Keynes was like this, so that was a weird gig. Even though it was Avalon, I think that booked me. But you get to a town, it doesn't seem like it has any comedy whatsoever. I mean, there's like very little in the town. Now, Milton Keynes was more like an industrial setup of some kind, commercial travel through village.
And set up like an American city,
Yeah. But I played towns that are basically like villages that you go, well, who's going to come out and see comedy? And then you realize when the queuing starts happening that it's there. The comedy club is there because people come to it. Now, Colin, before I run this, I just randomly found this on, I guess it's TikTok.
I don't even know what that is.
Can I run it? We'll see it.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's anything to see.
All right, it says breakneck comedy. Let's run.
Yeah, Naz Hussein's gig in Aberdeen.
It's you? You got a hat?
I think I'm
There you
holding. Yeah.
Oh, it's an intro. Nothing wrong with an intro.
I've not got much on line because my material. I've been, I'm working on building an hour, and I've got that hour. So the stuff that I've got that I've built up, I'm using. I've not got any of it online.
Okay.
Really, because I'm still just a bit of a newbie. Really, only been going 5 years.
Yeah. No, listen, I'm not under any pressure, and you got to know that I think I can speak for Rick. We both. Admire anybody who's gotten into comedy and stuck with it, no matter how long it's taken them to get to where they should be. And personally, I wish I had developed my act before I got into comedy, if that makes sense. I was a musician, singer, songwriter, and working a business, but that was my showbiz thing. I was, and then I was funny between the songs, and someone said, go to the Comedy Store. And I took the bits between the songs that were funny, cobbled them together, auditioned with it at the Comedy Store, and got hired as a comedian. But I only had like 5 minutes worth of material, maybe. And I'm stuck in these, 12 spots a week at the Comedy Store that are 15 minutes long. So I always, if there was one thing I could turn back the clock, I made a lot of mistakes. With people mostly, but if I could turn back the clock in terms of my comedy development, I wish I had started in another city other than Hollywood, where I was, and developed and became, a good comic in Denver, Colorado, for example, and then went out to LA when I was ready. But, your breaks come when they come. But, keep working at it. And have you done Edinburgh?
Yeah. Did the first run there in August this year.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, it was
You did a show, or you just went up and got on shows?
It was a mixed bill run that I did with Graham Mackey, who is a wonderful comedian from Scotland. one of the best MCs. I always kill myself laughing watching him. He's so funny.
Oh.
And Cubby, who's another up and comer. He's out there doing kind of mixed bill theatre tours around the UK and stuff.
His name is Cubby.
Cubby, yeah.
Okay.
And his name's David Cuthbertson, and he thought that was good enough, so it's Cubby. But he's been on Britain's Got Talent and things like that. Cubby's blind, so you know.
He's blind. Well, then how does he know he's been on Britain's Got Talent?
You God love. I just watched the clip recently, and
you hear Simon's voice. I think that's a giveaway. Yeah,
he got a standing ovation at the end of his set, and he didn't realise till Ant and Deck told him when they were taking him off the stage. He got a standing ovation there. I didn't know, you know. So I think a lot of his blindness has been a real kind of benefit to him with stand up. You know, he's not put off by things that other people. I was assaulted at one of the gigs at the first night of the run, and this crazy lady who enjoyed the show smacked me in the mouth, and it was all over the
Wait, she enjoyed the show and smacked you in the mouth?
No, it was Graham. He went on first, and Graham's brilliant, and then I was going on in the middle, and then Cubby was closing the show, and they were just talking. At this, it was the first night of the run, and cut a long story short, you know, we were
too late for that.
She was trying to. She kept talking, and we were constantly having to. I had to address it when I was on stage and stuff, and I was at the back of the room, and Cubby was on closing the show, and these two girls were leaving, talking, and they came up to me. Oh, it was a great show. That was really, really funny. I said, can you please stop talking? She's like, you're fucking rude. Like, out you go. We got out into the door, and we got out into the sort of wee kind of bit outside the venue. She turned around and smacked me in the mouth.
What?
And then I got into the kind of public part of the venue, and I was covered in blood, and the police were phoned, and it was all.
They really hurt you then, yeah.
Well, she didn't really hurt me. It was just a shock, and I think you learn who you are in those moments, because if you'd asked me 5 minutes before, if somebody was going to punch you in the mouth, what would you do? I think I would have said, I think I'd been quite sure I'd have probably punched them back, but I didn't.
But if it's a woman that punches you, then you have to be really careful about it.
Well, of course, and she's screaming, he's just assaulted me when I get into the public part of the venue. I'm standing there drinking my blood going, I'm fucked. And so the police were phoned, and they turned up, and I just was saying, you know, I hope to God, she was shouting, I hope there's CCTV in that bit. And I'm saying, yeah, I really hope to God. And the manager came down, and he had it on his phone, and the police had it there. So they could see what happened, thank God, or that'd be me over, life over, future ruined, just, you know. But luckily, because people just talk shit and lie, but in this instance, there was a camera there.
Well, you know, I've seen a lot of these videos. That's terrible that happened to you. I'm sorry. And you did the right thing. You took it well. And didn't action upon it other than the right way. But I've seen a lot of these little quirky videos that come up on the Facebook feed of, there's Karens, as we call them, or there's a guy who films on governmental property and then challenges the police to try to have him thrown off, and people getting arrested for DUI, driving under the influence and whatever. And part of the thing that fascinates me, and it's kind of cringy at the same time, is when there's two people arguing, they're both filming each other, and someone pushes their phone out of the way that they're being filmed, and then the other person claims, you've just assaulted me. And so I remember growing up when
recording it, yes.
Yeah. And I remember growing up, assault meant assault. You know, you were punched in the head. You know, you were pushed like I was a few years ago in Hollywood by some crazy stranger, and I was injured because I had a bad knee and I landed on my face just about, and that's assault. I'm not here to get into no one should touch anyone else,
But you literally hear these people in the video go, "You touched my camera. That's assault." And I don't know what American law is, but is that kind of a common thing in Britain where you can push someone's camera out of the way that they're filming you, and then you'd be accused of assault?
Well, I thought personally that Edinburgh has become, but I found it to be very violent because I was at the venue before, and I was supporting a kind of famous TV guy, and Chris Forbes, who's quite a famous guy in Scotland from Scott Squad and things like that. And we were supporting him, and I went in to check the venue out and thought it was great. And my partner and I, we did the gig and left. And as we were going up into it, we seen this most horrific assault happen just at my feet, and it was a kind of gay kind of attack. And this boy was quite effeminate, and the boys that were leathering him, this boy's head hit the concrete, and I felt it vibrate through my feet. And there was a lot of quotes from the Quran and religious rhetoric and all of that getting into it, and these young boys, and it was so heartbreaking. You know, it was just so sad. But I'm gay and I'm quite a big guy, and I'm standing there with my partner, and I'm seeing these young queerlings getting attacked. So I thought I had to kind of be the dad and try and break it up and sort it out.
Of course.
So that's how the Fringe started, and then the first gig I got punched in the mouth, and I'm like, what the hell is going on in this city? I don't know. It's a strange time, and we're very divided, and it's a strange time we're living in.
All over the world, indeed. You know, there's. I like to talk about. America has about 11 more months of democracy left, and then
Please, I'm trying to get my passport renewed. Don't remind me. Let me get the fuck out of here.
Yes, because
move to Texas. Why is everybody moving to Texas?
I don't know. That's
well, a lot of comics are, because Joe Rogan opened a comedy club called the Comedy Mothership, so it's a second start. But I think there's also less. It might be a state with no state sales taxes, some kind of financial reason.
Cost of living is cheaper in Texas than by far.
Yeah, I might move. I mean, I can't. I'm having trouble, maintaining my monthly bills. Everything's gotten more expensive. I went shopping last night at the Rock and Roll Ralph's, which is a big supermarket on Sunset Boulevard, where ironically it was situated in a part of Sunset Boulevard that was really degraded back in the day, and so you'd have like these junky rock star wannabes, going in at 4 a.m, trying to get some frozen Nirvana or some Coke or vodka.
My people.
Yeah. All right, that's a great one. We're going to now do our segment called Nicked, and we're delighted to have the great Colin Higgins with us. We'll be right back. This is Stephen Allen Green and Rick Wright with Comedy Dish, and you've been nicked. Okay, so Nicked is our segment where we talk about comedians stealing material from other comedians, whether it's consciously or unwittingly, or also the coincidence of simultaneous development of similar ideas because of world zeitgeist and knowledge and news. And I never am able to start this off with an example. I know that, Colin, you have some passion about this. Rick, I'll leave it to you guys, and then I'll join in.
It seems to be a problem with a lot of new acts who are coming through, and there's a problem with older acts as well, but newer acts seem to be, you can listen to material and you can hear it, that it's been kind of lifted. There was, and it's what Louis C.K., he characterizes it as cryptomnesia. Cryptomnesia? It's when
Kleptomnesia.
something something like that. It's when
Well, this
you
kleptomania.
You're stealing, but you're unaware. Basically.
Yeah, it's when you absorb a joke or a story and then you say it as your own, and so it's you kind of. I think, did he not have an issue with a certain female comedian that had lifted some of his material or something like that? And that was what he was talking about in this thing.
Whose responsibility is to say something?
Well, I took the initiative once when I heard a guy who was just doing an open mic, and he was doing a Will Durst, very famous San Francisco comedian, doing the joke verbatim about when you're driving when you're stoned and you get pulled over by the cops, and the cop says, "Do you know what speed you were doing?" And go, "I don't know, 50, 60." And cop pausing, "You're doing 4 fucking miles an hour." And I heard the exact same word for word, exact same inflection from an open micer after I'd seen Will Durst do the bit, maybe a month before. So
how did you approach it? Because a lot of people just don't know how they, especially open micers, might not remember how they got that material.
I said to the guy, do you know that that's a Will Durst bit? And he knew who Will Durst was. So he said, "Oh, a friend of mine gave me that one." And I said, "Well,
there's that. I remember when I was at the Comedy Store, and there was always this. The big fear was that you could see who was in the room. I remember comics didn't want to go on when Robin entered the back of the room because they had new material and they were fearing that Robin would nick, or at least the premise. And I'm not trying to disparage his memory. He was a greatest comic I've ever known. But there were the writers, the comics without faces. The writers who would go to the Comedy Store or the Improv or wherever and sit in the back and take notes. I remember there was a big thing, Harris Pete, doorman, walk around, to get rid of that pencil and paper. We're talking about before electronic devices or phones. And they would take notes. And then you'd see a joke or a routine or an idea on television, like within a week. So it's not necessarily a person, I was paid to write. I was on staff for comedians who were on television. And, I wrote jokes and gave it to them. Now, how do they know I didn't nick it? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I remember the Comedy Store had a sign on in the door saying, "No writing, please."
Yeah.
So they didn't keep that up very long, but I remember when it was there.
Some of it's really shameful. I mean, like the worst example that is already out there, and Stuart Lee highlighted it, and it was a bit that Joe Pasquale did. I think it was was it the Royal Variety performance? And Joe had just won his talent show. It was Opportunity Knocks, I think. And or So You Think You're Funny, one of these things back in the day. And he came out and did the bit where he came out, walked on stage wearing a long Mac. He was holding a polythene bag, and he walked out on stage. This was his opening bit, and he said to the audience, "People often say to me, 'Get out my garden,' right?" And it got this huge laugh, and that belonged to Michael Redmond.
Redmond. Well, okay.
He wrote that. Right?
Which Redmond? Michael Redmond?
Michael Redmond, who was of Father Ted fame. He played Father. Oh God!
No, I know Michael Redmond. I mean,
yeah.
If he's the Michael Redmond had an interesting Edinburgh show about being Jesus's younger brother or something like that.
Oh, there's so many guys who are really brilliant and special and have so much talent, and they're just not. This business does not look after them. It's awful.
It is. I don't know if I'm just being my usual irrational self, but I've always had an affinity for Scotland, the Scottish people, the Scottish culture. I'm not as much of a Scotophile as I am an Anglophile, but when I was a kid, I didn't have a Scottish nanny because we weren't rich, but there was a housekeeper who looked after me sometimes, who was Scottish, Mary. And it was just, it was just, there's something about it. And when I first went up to Scotland to do Edinburgh, I drove up with Earl Oaken. You know Earl? Great, one of the greatest British comedy acts. He was on my shows at the Palladium. And we drove up in '95. I just went up to explore Edinburgh, and I found there was this very offbeat independent venue run by Salford University media students. It was called the Mad Abbot, and it was a late night cabaret, and they loved me. But it was just, there's something magical about Edinburgh itself, and I know it's overtaken by the business by show business, but there's still something magical about Edinburgh itself, and to do comedy for Scottish people in Scotland it's a huge honor.
Yeah, Glasgow's
when they're pissed and they heckle you. Go on, I'm sorry.
The Glasgow scene and the Edinburgh scene are very different. I think the Edinburgh scene is sort of relies a lot on the kind of student base, as does Glasgow, but Edinburgh has a lot of the tourism in Edinburgh is phenomenal.
Yes.
So the clubs it's a different environment in Edinburgh. I feel the comedy is a lot more freer in Glasgow and people, but it's a funny time, doing this.
What I remember about is I haven't been to Edinburgh Festival since 2003, and I only went as a visitor, because Stephen was doing his one-man show there. But what I remember that was so great was just people that were booking rooms recognized me and said, "Oh, Rick, you're here. You got your guitar?" And I say, "Yeah." They say, "Well, we got a show in a couple hours. You want to do a set?"
Yeah.
And I get, they were paid sets, so.
The closest I come to that in LA, and I'm not even joking, is a comic will call me up and say, "Hey, Steven, I'm going to Vegas to work for the weekend. Can you drive me to the airport? I'll give you some money." That's the closest. No one has ever asked me like that to be on a show in LA. I mean, it's all, but I'm going to take that personally. It's just the way it is. There's so many comics here. Last night after my Uber shift, I ran into a very funny comedian we got to get on the show named Greg Buckman at Ralph's, Rock and Roll Ralph's, I brought up earlier. And, I was telling him about, I've been telling people about Edinburgh lately. Comics, you should do Edinburgh, you should do it. I can tell you how to do it, Of course, I had a lot of money to waste back then, but it's still so. I'll tell you, Edinburgh first for me was when I did my one-man show, I Eat People Like You for Breakfast, about me being a comedian coming to England and then producing a show at the London Palladium. That was in 2003, co-written and directed by John Dowie, except I let him off the hook because he got a little pissed off at me because I veered off the trail. But he essentially helped create the essence of that show. And it was the first time ever that I didn't just go up and here's the next gag, here's the next joke, here's the next thing. Okay, here's the song. What time? Okay, thanks. Good night. I actually talked. I was never a talking comedian. You know what I mean? Telling stories, being truthful, being a little bit awkward in terms of, is this going to turn into a joke or not? So it was a storytelling show that was funny. Where else could I have developed that? 3.5 weeks of doing that every night, 55 minutes. It just probably was the biggest sea change in my skill set of being a comedian, was doing a talking show where you talk, where it's not based on gag after gag. That's, for me, that's the gold in Edinburgh. Creatively.
I've met a lot of poets who have become comedians, and I've met musicians who've become comedians, but I've not met a lot of people who have been musicians and then developed the bits and the spaces in between because that's very, very like Connolly. That's how Billy Connolly started. He was a musician and quite a prominent one. And the Humble Bums with Jerry Rafferty and things like that. And then he was doing gigs and the bits in the middle, talking to the audience. That was what became the show. So he had quite an organic development when there was no stand-up scene in the UK. And, you know, so he developed a certain way, you know, and really strong skill set, you know, and
he had a #1 hit single as a result out of all that, you know, just a song parody, but it was funny. I listened to it about a month ago.
Who are we talking about? We're talking about Billy Connolly.
Billy Connolly.
What was the song?
Had a #1 song that was a parody of Divorce.
Tammy Wynette,
you know, the Tammy Wynette song, and it was although it was about a dog, and you know, and I guess it was recorded live, but it was quite funny, and it hit #1 as well. So,
and I sang it at school and nearly get expelled.
Oh God!
I think this is the series we'll develop for you. Colin gets expelled. You're a troublemaker with a good heart. He's a troublemaker with a good heart. Watch him survive each episode. I think it's time for pub quiz number 2. It's the show's running really quickly. We're very happy. So, pub quiz number 2 coming right up. All right, pub quiz. What's the score, Brian? As we go,
score is 1/2 to 0.
I'm to 0. Why does he only get 1/2? What's wrong with you?
Because it was the one about how many moons, and he guessed 4, and the answer was 3.
Okay, so, fair enough.
Yeah. Okay, so celebrity siblings, counting Alec, how many Baldwin brothers are there in the acting profession?
Okay, let me clear this with our judges. Is this an American-centric question?
4.
4 is the right answer. So
there you go. Good. Okay, 1.5. Excellent.
Okay, dictators. Who was the last Tsar of Russia?
Trump.
Ruling? Ruling 1894 until his forced abdication in 1917.
That was Tsar Nicholas the.
That's fine. It was Nicholas II. Yes.
I've got a whole bit about the Romanovs in my set.
Oh, okay.
Okay, maybe we should switch these questions back to American-centric. I feel like I'm losing footing here. All right, carry on.
Okay.
2.5 to 1.
This
0.
is an American one. TV themes.
I'm joking about that.
Yes, TV themes. What was the name of the band who sang the theme song to Friends? The I'll Be There For You.
I know the answer, but Colin, Colin's, I don't know if you watch Friends. It's
I
not
can't
an American
remember.
show. I know the answer, so if I get the answer, I get 0.5 point, okay?
Okay.
Rembrandts.
The Rembrandts was the name of the band, yes.
Thank you. Okay, so
okay. This is universal. Sport. What is the maximum score you can achieve in 10-pin bowling? They call it 10-pin bowling here, but just regular bowling in America.
The maximum score in the entire match or game?
In a game of bowling, if you get a strike in every frame.
10?
It's more than that.
No.
Is it like 150 or something?
It's more than that. It's 300.
Right.
If you get a strike in all 10 frames, and then you get strikes in you get 3 balls in the 10th frame, and if they're all strikes, then you get 300.
I'm sorry I didn't know that answer because it's not up my alley.
Well, whoa. Well, I once bowled. I was a good bowler for some reason. I once bowled 236.
Really?
And it was in the middle of the night. I was working in Las Vegas, and the rest of us, they said, "Oh, what do you want to do? Oh, let's go bowling at 3 a.m." And
I was thinking about bowling last night. I don't know, for some reason, the sound of the pins striking and the room and the shoes, and it's just something about it. I want to get to Vegas.
But I had strikes in the first 7 frames in that particular game. So
all right, next question.
Comedians. Who is the only member of Monty Python to be knighted?
Michael Palin.
Michael Palin is the right answer.
Wow. How come they knighted him?
He's a sweetheart.
Because of his travelogue stuff. I think that's that had
You
something to
ever
do.
you ever met a python, Colin?
No, I've had a wee exchange with Eric Idle on Twitter talking
Oh,
about
wow.
Harry Nilsson, but that was it.
Oh,
I met Harry Nilsson.
Did
I
you?
met, I met Harry Nilsson and Eric Idle.
Wow. Yeah, my meeting with Harry Nilsson. Well, there was two parts to it. So in the 70s, one of my very good friends who I was a drummer in a band with throughout grade school, a little bit of high school.
Oh, that picture you posted on Facebook a few days ago.
Yes, I did. And Jesse Jacobson, his mother had this condo. You know the towers, Brian? If you're driving down Fountain, you get to La Cienega, and you got to make a right up to Sunset or left down to Santa Monica Boulevard.
Yes.
And
Yep.
straight ahead, there's a very tall apartment complex. And my friend had this apartment his mother had, and Harry Nilsson lived there, and Ringo would come by, and so they would often see Harry in the elevator. But my meeting of him was very short and brief. So there was the Hudson brother who became a producer.
The one that married Goldie Hawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was reviving Harry's career. And there was a coffee house I used to go to when I was still living in LA. It was like a year. I remember it was the year that Kurt Cobain died.
94.
94.
Yep, 94. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just read in the paper, that Harry Nilsson going to get another record, Mark Hudson, and then I go to the coffee house, and there they are. And I went over to the table, and I saw Mark, and I went to say, I want to thank you for doing this. I'm such a fan of Harry Nilsson. And then Harry Nilsson, who I didn't see because he had his back to me, stood up, giant man, and thanked me. And then a month later, he died.
Wow.
So don't thank me.
Yeah. I met him at one of Robin's parties when I was first living in LA.
Robin Williams.
Robin
Wow.
Williams' wife was inviting me to the house that they had. It was, I believe it was off 3rd Street, that area, or 6th Street. That's what it was. Yeah. Anyway,
Was it one of these old mansions in what they call what's that area? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's toward downtown from Hollywood, and
Larchmont. No, not Larchmont.
Yeah, it's in that vicinity. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was just all sorts of eccentrics that were there. The composer Van Dyke Parks was there singing.
Oh, wow.
Your songs.
Wow.
But then Harry Nilsson was just, and Peter Cook was there and wasn't talking to anybody.
Wow.
Because he just really didn't feel comfortable there. But he had a U.S. TV series at that time. So
Which was what?
It only lasted half a season, I think.
What was it called?
I can't remember the name, but he played a teacher. I'm pretty sure.
I'm looking it up on IMDb right now, Internet Movie Database.
Yeah.
What approximate year? I'm sorry, what, Colin?
It would have been 81 or 82. So, but
what a party that must have been! Bloody hell!
While you're looking at that up, I mean, Harry Nilsson just started talking to me, and hey, how's it going, man? And I thought, I've never met you. I know who you are, but you're talking to me like you know me. So,
who was this talking to you? Harry Nilsson?
Harry Nilsson.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just
he was really good pals with John Lennon.
Yeah.
I think the working class thing, Harry Nilsson was a working class blue collar guy, and I don't think he ever lost that.
Well, and at that time he had gone sober. So,
Right.
But he was just being really, really friendly. And I
can't find the series, but I see this film that Peter Cook did, Whoops Apocalypse. And the reason I remembered this was that when Michael Richards was still doing stand-up at the Comedy Store, and I was the compere, the MC, one of them, and I was introducing him, I remember saying, he's in a new film, this is 1986, called Whoops Apocalypse, with Peter Cook and Herbert Lom.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, I love these crossovers. Even though it's just what happened to me. What happened to me yesterday? Somebody, in fact, Damien, our
Oh,
our
Damien Fitz.
loyal fan and friend, Damien Fitz, sent me, and it's posted on my Facebook group. Someone did a compilation of Conan O'Brien's show and all the celebrities that he's had on the show, and I'm in it, even though I'm not a celebrity. I'm in it. How the hell did that happen? It's fun when that stuff happens. You can look at it two ways. Like, I'm an extra. You're just an extra. Yeah, I'm an extra. Well, you shouldn't have awarded so many of them. Then. I'm an extra in case you need me. But I'm just here, ladies and gentlemen, to have fun.
But
I'm here
by the way,
have fun.
the show with Peter Cook was called The Two of Us.
The Two of Us. All right. Let me see if I can.
1981-82. He did 20 episodes.
Oh, wow. Okay. 81, 82. So let me go back to this. I don't see it on his. Hang on. Let me share the internet database. Sorry, Colin. This is important research just coming in. Bear with us. And,
we go off on tangents.
We're thinking. So 81, 82.
Tangents for me. I've got ADHD. I'm a tangent ninja.
Yeah. All right. So you're okay. Late Flowering Love, Yellowbeard, Derek and Clive Get the Horn, The Hound of the Baskervilles, 78. I
love the story that John Lennon and Harry Nilsson get chucked out the troubadour for causing Mary hell.
Well, it started with Lennon wearing a Kotex on his head and saying to the waitress, "Do you know who I am?" And she goes, "Yeah, you're some asshole with a Kotex on his head." and he wasn't expecting that. But the waitress later said, "This is someone I've idolized, and he's being a dick." So
yeah,
I think that's the night that John Lennon and Harry Nilsson had a screaming competition to see who could scream the loudest, and that apparently is how Harry knackered his voice.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's
seem a lot higher than John could. Can't live living without you. He hits some pretty high notes there that I don't think John Lennon ever.
Harry was just brilliant. When there's a bar, I see there's a lot of the geography, the history in Hollywood I see on a nightly basis because of my Uber job. And by the way, folks, I'm a very successful and wealthy comedian. I do Ubering for to give something back to the community. But there's a bar on there used to be a bar on Larrabee and Santa Monica Boulevard. Larrabee is a street that goes north to Sunset from Santa Monica Boulevard, and it's in West Hollywood, which is the I don't want to say the gay section of but it happens to be very identified with LGBTQ culture, and it's a lot of I drive there because people are coming out of the clubs and want to go to Hollywood, and I want to do short rides. Anyway, there's a bar that used to be called Lost on Larrabee that when Lennon did his Lost Weekend, 18-month Lost Weekend, he would go to. It's no longer the bar, but and then I was at the Rainbow a few weeks ago, where Lennon, Alice Cooper, Mickey Dolenz, Nielsen would famously hold court. You all right?
Wasn't that Lemmy's favorite?
Yeah, I think so. We got a comment coming through. Let me see who that is.
Lemmy.
Sorry.
Lemmy.
Darren Staley. White Russians were the drink of choice that night, as I recall from the documentaries. Oh, thank you.
I heard when Lennon was talking about his getting thrown out of the Troubadour and having the incident, that he said he had too many Brandy Alexanders. But
I heard that too.
Yeah. So
either way, they were pissed.
Either way, they're fucking pissed.
They were fucking steaming.
They were definitely pissed. So
yeah.
And what does White Russians were the okay, that's the same one. Okay.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of cocaine was
cocaine. Yeah, they didn't talk about that, but that was
I'm hearing that cocaine is still kind of a thing in LA.
Britain has the second highest rate of cocaine use in the world. Of
really?
The only country Only country that does it more is Australia, but apparently 1 in every 40 people in Britain either does or has indulged in. I think is.
It's also very dangerous these days in America because a lot of the coke I heard,
Yeah.
a lot of the coke is laced with fentanyl, which is Darren Staley is saying you are right, Bernie Alexander's, but fentanyl is this drug that has been killing celebrities left and right.
Scary stuff.
Yep.
But I love how Australia's third, and it's only got like 10 million people in it.
Yeah.
Is that cocaine? Is that in terms of grams or per head? Or
I think it's just how many people use it. I think it's
also the kangaroos. A kangaroo will snort a line right off your tits without looking. Kangaroo. How's my okay, just bust me on it, Colin.
I used to drive a taxi.
That sounded more Scottish than
Then what? That's what I was supposed to be doing.
I also used to drive a taxi. I drove a taxi for 8 years, and for a period of time I drove a taxi in St Andrews in Fife, the home of golf and all that.
Yeah.
And a lot of students there, and there was a lot of really, really wealthy Russian kids that were there, and a lot of really, really wealthy Chinese kids, and they were all taking so much cocaine, and they were getting their carry-out would be like champagne and all that. Their drink, you'd see them coming out of the off license or the alcohol shop or whatever, and they'd have like single malts, and then they'd get the single malt or the champagne, and then they'd go to the dealer's house and they'd get themselves a few grams, and it was like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Oh, Rick, do you
you
remember the bathrooms, the ladies' bathrooms in the hallway, just as you walk down the original room in the Comedy Store? There was the payphone and then the ladies' bathrooms.
Yeah.
2 of them, single.
Yeah. Well, I also used to score there and
score women or drugs?
Score drugs there.
Okay. Because I would see some major comics. Where's Richard Pryor? He's on next, and he'd come out of the bathroom. Yeah, I'm ready.
I had that with Sam.
What was that, Colin?
That still goes on.
Yeah, well, if you can afford to make coke, to buy coke, then you're doing well in comedy.
Yeah, that's what Kinnison would say on stage. He'd say, if you do like a couple grams a day and you still got 10,000 in the bank, you don't have a problem. Very, very irresponsible thing to say. But I remember he was going to follow me in the main room, and I finished my set and I introduced him, and he didn't come out. I go back there and I say, Sam, I just introduced you, and they got this line about near a foot long, and he goes, oh shit, and then just and then he goes out on stage and does an hour.
Speaking of time, we're running out of time, and we're going to do one more pub quiz, and then we're going to say goodbye until next week, which is a big sad thing for me because it won't be until next year. Fuck that. All right, what's the score?
I think it's 2.5 to 1.
All right, I got the 1. This is for all the money.
Okay.
Which Colin means that if you win,
you have glory.
You do. I'll buy you a round of Guinness if you drink.
I don't drink.
Oh well, I'll buy you a line of Coke. All right.
I don't take Coke.
Well, I'll buy you something for fuck's sake. A deep fried Mars bar.
I've got ADHD. Cocaine just makes me want to go to sleep.
That's funny. All right, Brian.
Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, I was going to go into my the last time I did cocaine, but anyway.
I want to hear this.
Oh, it's getting juicy now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it had the complete adverse effect that it usually had on me back in the 80s and 90s. In that I did it. It must have been about 2006, and I was working in Southampton, and someone had just scored some and offered me a line, and so I said, "Oh, okay, well, this will be for old time's sake," and I go back to the hotel because there was a show that was on at 11 o'clock that I wanted to see. And next thing I knew, it was 10 o'clock in the morning. And somehow gotten undressed and under the covers, but did not remember any of that. I barely remembered getting back into the room, but so yeah, it had the opposite effect, because you'd do a line and then you'd be up for the next 6 to 8 hours.
I love.
I just always assumed I was getting shite coke. I just always thought this is pish coke. This because you watch Sam Kinison, you know, and the energy that he had.
Yeah,
and it's like I'm quite energetic. I'm quite high energy, and I'm about the stage and stuff. And I think if I was to start taking any kind of drugs like that, I would go insane.
Yeah.
On stage.
Yeah,
it's shite.
You can lose your lose the concentration really fast. But speaking of which,
wait, before we go in, Darren is one of our greatest fans, is saying we need a special episode of Comedy Dish focused solely on the cocaine stories. I love this, Darren. Rick and I will have a meeting with the suits upstairs about this, and maybe we can get it funded. All right, thank you, Darren. So, all right, let's go. Final 3 questions in our pub quiz today.
Genetics. Humans share 98.8% of the same DNA with which primate?
Chimpanzee.
Republicans.
Chimpanzee. Republicans, a good answer, but chimpanzee,
Republicans.
Right one.
So, gay Republicans. Is there such a thing?
Yes. I've met them. Yes,
I mean, out of the closet, gay Republicans.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What Republican would ever?
George Santos is gay.
He's hidden that fact. He's totally closeted. He's a puppeteer. But yeah, you're right. All right.
Okay.
All right. Next one.
Okay. Geometry. 4 pi r cubed is the formula for the volume of what figure?
Gay Republicans.
4
pi r cubed.
4 pi r cubed.
So it's 4 times 3.14, etc., to the third
times the radius, and that whole amount multiplied by itself twice.
Fucking hell!
Definitely not my milieu.
We're only asking for the formula for what the volume of what three-dimensional figure.
I am thick as fuck. Square.
A square is on the right track, but it's a sphere.
Sphere. Yeah, I was about to say sphere. Okay.
So last one.
Is this for the game?
More or less. Okay, let's not make it an American question, and there seems to be a whole slew of them. Food.
Christmas.
What fruit has the highest fat content?
Oh,
Richard Simmons.
That's all. That should be a winner.
That's so wrong.
What
fruit has the highest fat
content? An avocado.
Yeah. What one? If you
what
eat
fruit
a lot
has the highest fat content?
Yeah. If you ate a lot of them, you'd gain a lot of weight.
I think Colin said avocado. That would be my guess.
Avocado is the answer.
Okay.
Who said that?
Well, my opponent.
Oh,
our guest. He wins. He wins.
Missed it, Tyler. So you win. Okay.
Hey, all right. I'll buy you a deep fried Mars bar when I run into you.
Brilliant. I was going to just quickly do every cocaine every cocaine anecdote I've ever had, just for Darren. Okay.
Go for it.
Every story I've got beautifully illustrated for you.
Yeah, whoever said Richard Simmons is the funniest person ever. Well, okay.
Anybody on coke? Harry Nilsson. Colin, thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate it. You're such an affable guest.
And now that we're friends, let me know if you're coming down to London, because
I certainly will. I'll be delighted to. Normally, when people invite me onto podcasts, it's usually really, really heavy stuff they want to talk about. So I was kind of sitting like that, waiting for the heavy stuff. But that was lovely and light and cool.
Excellent. Very much. I mean, we try to have fun here, and thanks for coming. I'm going to stay on with Brian just to talk about next week. And Happy New Year. And
all the best. Happy New Year. Lovely to meet you, Rick, and lovely to finally speak to you, Stephen.
Yeah, Colin. Yeah, you and I have had some rough patch on the Facebook. You're a good man. Thank you.
All right.
All right. So next week we've got
Atlas
Novak, who's a comic. I was on his podcast 2 days ago or yesterday.
Okay.
Very fun. He's a really clever LA-based comedian. And then January 10th, we've got Joey Gaynor coming back.
Yep.
And then my friend Hank Rosenfeld, who's a really funny guy and a published author, who wrote a book with the late Irv Brecker, who was one of the Marx Brothers writers.
Oh,
He's got a new book out, which I want to just find it here, about a famous radio station in San Francisco that no longer exists. If I can just find it, you'll probably know the station. The book is called The Jive 95. Let me share that.
yeah, it was K-San.
Yeah, that's wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is where's the
Yes.
book? It's
Yeah, Rick
coming
and
up
Ruby
here.
did,
It's,
we did quite a few interviews on that station.
this one.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, great. Because that was the the FM rock station, the one that everyone listened to back then.
Back then, being what, the 70s, the
Back-
80s?
70s, yeah, 70s into the 80s.
Yeah, I keep going over the best. One of the best times I've had in showbiz was doing that year-long. I had that year-long contract doing that. It was a podcast radio show in San
Yeah.
Francisco. That was so much fun.
I was impressed. You got Paul Mooney to appear on it once,
And he was over in Oakland, and Mooney was, God rest his soul. He was, he knew about this. We gave him the number to call us. It was through a third party, I think one of his assistants or associates. And he gets on the phone. Who is this? Who? We're on the air. Hi, Paul. It's Stephen Allen Green. Remember me from the Comedy Store? No. Who are you? What is this about? What? Why am I here? What do you want? And then once I reminded him, I think he had some memory issues, some illness. He kicked in. He was just brilliant. One of the most brilliant comedians, live comedians. I don't know if Paul Mooney ever translated his liveness to television. There are acts. We should talk about this sometime. For my money, there are some comedy acts. I wonder if Colin's still in the room. Agrees with me. There's some acts who are amazing in the room, and when they get filmed for television, and I know all the reasons, and television is more structured, but they're never as good as seeing them live.
No, because they just think, okay, we'll have him do little bits of his act within the framework of the show.
Yeah, right.
I do remember somebody that kind of happened to. They gave him a series too soon, and within a couple of weeks, his bits were starting to carry the show, and save the writers the trouble. But the show was canceled after, I guess, 11 weeks or so.
Was this a sitcom?
It was a sitcom with a guy who is a guy named Daryl Savad, who
Daryl, very talented young man.
Yeah, and he called himself Daryl Savad because his real name was Daryl Davis. So Davis backwards was Savad, and it worked, But I just remember watching that show. He played a teacher, and
his act was incorporated in dialogue.
Yeah, I remember seeing.
But what I'm saying is, a stand-up comic doing their act in a comedy club or even a theater. Well, some comics work better in the club, don't translate to the theater.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's true.
But even if you film the club or the theater, it still doesn't have that feel of how great they are because you're not in the room.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
I mean, ultimately, yes. Seeing the comic live is the best. Is their best venue. In fact, I remember that with Robin, that people would, when we were touring with him, and people would say, "Yeah, do some of the stuff you do on TV," and he's like, "No, I'm free from Massa TV now. I want to do something different." But they wanted him to do Nano and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, I remember seeing him come out in the main room, and he might have been wearing his khaki pants and rainbow suspenders, braces, and. But for the most part, he tried to shed that and that image. God rest his soul. What a great loss. I think we should do a show on Robin sometime, because it seems to me that comedy has not been the same. It's been great in different ways, but certainly he was a beacon of light.
Yeah, he's someone that comes along once in a generation. So
even more. Rick, thank you so much. Again, thanks to Colin Higgins. We'll see you next week.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, mate. Are you working or what are you doing for New Year's?
I don't know. I don't have anything booked yet, but there's always that remote chance somebody's gonna contact me about either DJing or even stand up.
I think you should just stand up more.
It does happen, but yeah, I don't know. The last time I did Martin's room, I was like, I don't know. So we'll see.
Martin's room.
Martin Besserman, I did his room, and
what about the King's Head? That's the comedy club.
Well,
isn't it?
I'm doing that 27th of January, so we'll see how that goes, and then
I'm
see
doing
if
it sometime next year. I just haven't figured out yet how to get back and how to finance it and what to do. And like I said in my post yesterday, that one person thought was a suicide note. It wasn't. It was just thank you, a gratitude.
No, I read it. It wasn't a suicide note. Definitely.
Thank you. And I in my head, I want to go back to England once I've accomplished something significant here. I think that's what makes me work so hard. Anyway, thank you.
Right.
I want to thank our audience, both in England and in America. I want to thank our fans and people like Damian Fitz and Darren Staley, and everyone else. We appreciate your participation.
Yeah, your involvement.
Fucking involvement, mate.
Yeah.
All right, then.
All right, dude. So
all right. Thank you, Rick. Best to Maggie and Peter if you see him. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
See you. Bye, everybody.
It's Comedy Dish.
Coast.